Welcome students. Today we are going to see the title Emancipation and Counter-Emancipation. Introduction. Emancipation and counter-emancipation are two interconnected concepts that revolve around the dynamics of freedom and oppression. Emancipation refers to the act of granting freedom, rights and equality to individuals who were previously subjugated or oppressed. It marks a pivotal moment in the struggle for social justice and represents a significant step towards creating a more inclusive and equitable society. However, the path towards emancipation is not always linear or straightforward. Counter-emancipation, on the other hand, refers to efforts and movements aimed at reversing or undermining the process of liberation. It manifests as regressive actions that seek to reinstate oppressive systems, deny previously granted rights or perpetuate inequalities. Counter-emancipation poses a significant challenge to progress and can hinder the achievement of a just and equal society. Understanding the complexities of emancipation and counter-emancipation requires an interdisciplinary approach that draws insights from various academic disciplines. History provides valuable perspectives on past struggles for freedom, such as the abolition of slavery or women's suffrage movements, and illuminates the transformative effects of emancipation. Sociology offers insights into the social structures and power dynamics that perpetuate oppressions and hinder progress towards equality. Political science sheds light on the ideological and political factors that drive counter-emancipation movements. Gender studies analyze the intersecting dimensions of oppressions and liberation, particularly in relation to marginalized groups. By adopting an interdisciplinary lens, we can comprehensively understand the multifaceted nature of emancipation and counter-emancipation. This title aims to explore these concepts and their interplay within an interdisciplinary framework, highlighting the significance of studying them in tandem. By doing so, we can identify patterns, challenges and opportunities for fostering freedom, equality and social justice. A brief explanation of emancipation. Emancipation is the transformative process of granting freedom, rights and equality to individuals who have been subjected to various forms of oppressions or subjugations. It involves recognizing their inherent dignity and removing the legal, social and institutional barriers that restrict their autonomy and opportunities. At its core, emancipation seeks to dismantle systems of inequality and discrimination, allowing individuals to exercise agency, make choice and participate fully in society. It involves the recognizing of their basic human rights, including but not limited to freedom of expression, education, employment and political participation. Emancipation often emerges as a response to historical injustice such as slavery, colonialization, apartheid or gender discrimination. It represents a turning point where societies acknowledge the inherent rights and worth of previously marginalized individuals or groups. It can be achieved through various means such as legal reforms, social movements, political advocacy or international conventions and declarations. The granting of freedom and rights through emancipation carries profound implications for both individuals and society. It enables individuals to reclaim their identities, assert their voice and shape their own destinies. Emancipation promotes social cohesion, justice, and the flourishing of diverse societal perspective and talents. However, it is essential to recognize that the process of emancipation is often complex and ongoing. Achieving legal freedom is just the beginning, as societal attitudes, systematic inequalities, and ingrained prejudice can persist even after formal emancipation. Sustaining and deepening the gains of emancipation require continued efforts to dismantle structural barriers, challenge discriminatory norms, and promote inclusive policies and practices. And it is a powerful force that aims to rectify historical injustice, foster social equality, and build inclusive societies. By recognizing and respecting the freedom and rights of oppressed individuals, we move closer to realizing the principles of justice, dignity, and human rights for all. Then, concepts of counter emancipation. Counter emancipation, in contrast to emancipation, refers to regressive actions and efforts to undermine or reverse the gains of liberation and equality. It represents resistance to social progress and the perpetuation of oppressive systems and ideologies. While emancipation strives to dismantle barriers and grant freedom, counter emancipation seeks to maintain or reinstate hierarchies, privileges, and forms of discrimination. It can manifest in various ways depending on the specific context and the targeted group. It may involve the enactment of discriminatory laws or policies that restrict the rights and opportunities of certain individuals or communities. For example, in the aftermath of the abolition of slavery, counter-emancipation efforts were evident in the establishment of segregationist Jim Crow law in the United States, which aimed to deny African Americans their newly gained rights and reinforce racial inequality. Ideological movements can also fuel counter-emancipation. These movements often propagate regressive ideas and beliefs that justify the subjugation or marginalization of certain groups based on factors such as race, gender, religion, or nationality. Such ideologies can lead to the suppression of rights, social exclusion, and the denial of equal opportunities. And it can be both overt and subtle, operating at individuals, institutional, and societal levels. It may involve efforts to erase or distort history, downplay the significance of past injustices, or perpetuate harmful stereotypes and biases. By challenging the progress made towards liberation, counter-emancipation aims to maintain the status quo, reinforcing power imbalances and inhibiting social change. Recognizing and understanding counter-emancipation is crucial in order to effectively address and overcome its harmful effects. It requires a critical examination of the underlying ideologies, power structures, and social dynamics that sustain these regressive actions. By analyzing the motivations, tactics, and consequences of counter-emancipation, we can develop strategies to counteract and challenge these efforts, ultimately striving for a more just and inclusive society. The next one is dynamics of emancipation and counter-emancipation. By adopting an interdisciplinary approach, we seek to explore the multifaceted aspects of these concepts and their interconnectedness across various academic disciplines. Emancipation and counter-emancipation are complex phenomena that cannot be fully understood from a single disciplinary perspective. They involve historical, sociological, political and cultural dimensions as well as intersecting issues of gender, race, class and more. Therefore, an interdisciplinary lens allows us to gain a comprehensive understanding of the underlying dynamics, motivations and consequences of these processes. Through this interdisciplinary analysis, we aim to uncover the historical context in which emancipation movements have emerged, examining the social, political and economic factors that have propelled them forward. We will explore the transformative effects of emancipation on societies, individuals and institutions as well as the challenges faced in implementing and sustaining the gains of liberation. Simultaneously, we will delve into the intricacies of counter-emancipation, understanding the ideologies, power structures and tactics employed to resist or reverse the progresses made toward freedom and equality. By studying counter-emancipation movements, we can identify the factors that contributed to their emergence and the strategies used to maintain oppressive systems. An interdisciplinary framework will analyze the diverse methodology, theories and perspectives offered by the various disciplines to unravel the complexities of emancipation and counter-emancipation. By synthesizing knowledge from multiple disciplines, we can develop a holistic understanding of the dynamics at play. Furthermore, the importance of interdisciplinary collaboration in addressing and confronting the challenges posed by counter-emancipation movements. By drawing on the strengths of different disciplines, we can identify innovative approaches, strategies and interventions to counteract regressive actions and foster sustainable progress towards freedom, equality and social justice. By analyzing these concepts within an interdisciplinary framework, we hope to shed light on the complexities of freedom, oppressions and the ongoing struggle for a more inclusive and equitable society. Next one, historical perspectives on emancipation. Emancipation has been a recurring theme throughout history, marked by significant movements of liberation and the granting of rights to oppressed individuals or marginalized groups. By examining historical perspectives on emancipation, we can gain insights into the transformative power of liberation movements and the societal impact of these pivotal movements. Number 1, abolition of slavery, women's suffrage movements, civil rights movement, decolonization movements. Now, let us see the movements in detail one by one. Abolition of slavery. One of the most pivotal movements in the history of emancipation was the abolition of slavery. Slavery, a deeply entrenched institution that dehumanized and exploited millions of individuals, faced resistance from abolitionist movements around the world. The transatlantic slave trade and the enslavement of African people were widespread in the Americas, Europe and other regions. The efforts to abolish slavery gained momentum during the 18th and 19th centuries. In the United States, the Emancipation Proclamation issued by President Abraham Lincoln in 1862 declared the freedom of slaves in Confederate States during the American Civil War. It was followed by the ratification of the 13th Amendment to the US Constitution in 1865, which permanently abolished slavery throughout the country. The British Empire, one of the major players in the transatlantic slave trade, also played a significant role in emancipation. The Slavery Abolition Act 1833 abolished slavery throughout the British Empire, freeing millions of enslaved individuals. Other countries such as France, Spain and the Netherlands also implemented legislations to end slavery in their colonies. Women's suffrage movements. The fight for women's suffrage and gender equality has been a vital aspect of the emancipation movements. Women who were historically excluded from political participation and denied basic rights organized and campaigned for their right to vote and be treated as equal citizens. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, suffrage movements gained momentum across Europe, North America and other parts of the world. Organizations like the National American Women Suffrage Associations in the United States and the Women's Social and Political Union in the United Kingdom played a pivotal roles in advocating for women's voting rights. Significant milestones were achieved, such as the ratification of the 19th Amendment to the US Constitution in 1920, which granted women the right to vote in the United States. The suffrage movement paved the way for greater gender equality, challenging societal norms and discriminatory laws that hindered women's political and social participation. Civil rights movement. The civil rights movements in the United States was a significant emancipation movement focused on ending racial segregation, discrimination and the denial of civil rights to African Americans. The movement gained a prominence in the 1950s and 1960s and sought to dismantle systemic racism, led by figures like Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Malcolm X and many others. The civil rights movements employed various tactics including nonviolent protest, marches and legal challenges. The movement's goals included desegregation of schools, equal access to public facilities, voting rights and an end to racial violence. Key achievements of the civil rights movement include the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex or national origin, and the Voting Rights of 1965, which aimed to protect and enforce the voting rights of African Americans. These legislative victories marked significant milestones in the emancipation of African Americans from institutionalized racism and discriminations. Understanding counter-emancipation. Political counter-emancipation involves the implementation of policies or legislation that roll back or weaken the rights and protections previously granted to marginalized groups. This can manifest through discriminatory laws, voter suppressions, tactics, gerrymandering or the erosion of civil rights and liberties. Political counter-emancipation often stems from the resistance of powerful intersects or the manipulation of public sentiment to maintain existing power structures. Social and cultural counter-emancipations occurs when societal attitudes, norms and beliefs reinforce discriminatory practices and perpetuate inequalities. This can include the promotion of harmful stereotypes, exclusionary social practices or the marginalization of certain groups based on factors such as race, gender, religion or sexual orientations. Counter-emancipation efforts in this sphere aim to maintaining hierarchies and uphold prejudiced ideologies. Economic counter-emancipation refers to actions or policies that perpetuate economic inequalities and hinder the socio-economic advancement of marginalized groups. This can include unequal access to education, employment discriminations, wage caps or the concentration of economic power in the hands of a privileged few. Economic counter-emancipation aims to preserve socio-economic hierarchies and limit opportunities for upward mobility. Counter-emancipations may also involve the revision of cultural and historical narratives to uphold oppressive ideologies or deny the experiences of marginalized groups. This can include the erasure of historical achievements and contributions made by marginalized communities, the promotion of revisionist histories that justify discrimination, or the preservation of symbols and monuments that represent oppressive ideologies. Counter-emancipation often emerges as a backlash against the progress made by emancipation movements. As marginalized groups gain visibility, voice, and rights, there can be resistance from individuals or groups who perceive these gains as a threat to their own privilege or status. This resistance can manifest through acts of violence, hate speech, discriminatory practices, or organized movements aimed at reversing the gains made by marginalized communities. Counter-emancipation as a concept. The concept of counter-emancipation encompasses different dimensions, including political, social, cultural, and economic aspects. Political counter-emancipation involves the use of political power, policies, or legislation to undermine the rights and protections previously granted to marginalized groups. This can include the enactment of discriminatory laws, the manipulation of electoral process to suppress the votes of certain communities, or the erosion of civil liberties that were previously secured through emancipatory struggles. Social and cultural counter-emancipations refers to efforts aimed at perpetuating discriminatory attitudes, practices, and norms that marginalize specific groups. This can include the promotion of prejudiced beliefs, exclusionary social practices, or the preservation of cultural ideologies that reinforce hierarchies and inequalities. Economic counter-emancipations involves actions or policies that hinder the socio-economic progress and advancement of marginalized groups. This can encompasses practices such as employment discrimination, wage disparities, limited access to education or resources, or the perpetuation of economic systems that concentrate wealth and power in the hands of privileged few. Counter-emancipation may also involve the revision of cultural narratives, historical accounts, or the preservation of symbols that uphold oppressive ideologies. This can include denying or distorting the experiences and contribution of marginalized communities, promoting revisionist histories that justify discrimination, or preserving monuments and symbols associated with oppressive ideologies. Counter-emancipation efforts. The motivations and factors contributing to counter-emancipation efforts can vary depending on the specific context, but there are several common underlying reasons that contribute to these regressive movements. Counter-emancipation often arises when individuals or groups perceive the advancements made by marginalized communities as a threat to their existing power and privilege. The dismantling of systems of oppression and the redistribution of rights and resources can challenge the status quo and disrupt established hierarchies. Those who benefit from these systems may resist change to protect their advantageous positions. Fear and insecurity can fuel counter-emancipation efforts. Individuals who hold prejudiced beliefs may feel threatened by the social, political, or cultural changes brought about by the emancipation movements. This fear can be rooted in a perceived loss of social dominance, cultural identity, or economic stability. Counter-emancipation provides a means to combat this fear by attempting to maintaining or restore familiar power structures. It can also be driven by ideological opposition to the principles and goals of the emancipation movements. Individuals or groups may hold deeply ingrained beliefs that uphold discriminatory ideologies and view attempts at social progress as a challenge to their worldview. These ideologies can be rooted in concepts such as racism, sexism, homophobia, or xenophobia, and individuals may actively resist any efforts that challenge or undermine these beliefs. Counter-emancipation efforts can stem from a desire to preserve traditional values and cultural norms that perpetuate inequality. Some individuals or communities may view social progress as a threat to their cultural heritage or moral frameworks. They may resist changes in gender roles, family structures, or social norms, perceiving them as a departure from their traditional ways of life. And economic factors can play a significant role in counter-emancipation efforts. Those who benefit from existing economic systems may resist emancipatory movements that aim to address economic inequalities and redistribute resources. Economic elites or dominant groups may resist policies that challenge their economic advantages, leading to efforts to undermine or roll back emancipatory measures. Is there any approach to the deal with the interdisciplinary historical analysis examines the historical context of emancipation movements and counter-emancipation efforts. It explores how social, political and economic factors shaped the struggles for liberation and the resistance against them. By drawing on historical records, primary sources and comparative studies, historians provide critical insights into the factors influencing both emancipatory and counter-emancipatory processes. Sociological approaches investigate the social structures, power dynamics and cultural norms that shape emancipation and counter-emancipation. They explore how societal institutions and systems contribute to oppression or liberation and analyze the social factors that motivate resistance to emancipatory movements. Sociologists study the interaction between individuals, groups and the complex dynamics involved in the struggle for freedom and the resistance against it. Conclusion: the study of emancipation and counter-emancipation within an interdisciplinary framework provides valuable insights into the complexities of freedom, oppression and the ongoing struggle for social justice. By integrating multiple disciplines, we gain a deeper understanding of the historical perspectives, societal impacts, challenges and motivations associated with both emancipation and counter-emancipation movements. Significant historical examples such as the abolition of slavery and women's suffrage movements showcases the transformative effects of emancipation and demonstrate the progress made in granting freedom and rights to oppressed individuals. Emancipation has the power to reshape societies, challenge oppressive systems and promote equality and human rights. Understanding counter-emancipation is equally important in countering regressive actions against liberation. Counter-emancipation involves efforts to undermine and roll back the progress made in emancipatory movements. Various forms of counter-emancipation exist across different contexts and time period, driven by motivations such as power, preservation, fear of change and oppressive ideologies. Different disciplines offer unique insights, methodologies and perspectives that contribute to a comprehensive understanding of the complexities at hand. Through interdisciplinary collaboration, we can develop holistic strategies to address challenges, foster collaboration, bridge theory and practice, empower marginalized voices and build coalition and solidarity. Additionally, interdisciplinary approaches can contribute to the understanding of emerging challenges and new forms of oppressions, considering the interdisciplinary of various identities and advancing social justice in an ever-changing world. Ultimately, the study of emancipation and counter-emancipation within an interdisciplinary framework remains as of the ongoing struggle for freedom and equality. By embracing interdisciplinary approaches, we can continue to work towards a more just, inclusive and emancipated society where the rights and dignity of all individuals are respected and protected. Dear learners, I hope you could enjoy the session with the inputs on emancipation and counter emancipation. We will meet with another schedule. Thank you. All the best.